Hi, my name is Bo Pilgrim at Reed Insurance. I want to talk to you today about auto insurance. Auto insurance is one of those things that can be a little bit daunting and kind of, overwhelming. Because there's so many limits, deductibles, different coverages, full coverage, comprehensive collision, all these different terms that we use inside the insurance world that you can make it a little bit overwhelming. And then also, it's one of those things that we pay more for than any of the other insurance policies that we buy. And so it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. In this video series, I'm going to try to help break that down a little bit for you and help you to make a little bit more informed decision about your auto insurance. Before we get into it, there's a couple of different things that you really need to understand. And the first thing is about limits. Limits are is the part of the policy. It's a number that you purchase and it's for your protection. It's going to be either in a split limit or in a single limit. Most commonly though, you'll see it in a split limit where it's three different numbers, and it may be 100, 300, 100. Well, what those numbers represent are the amounts of coverage or the amount of protection that you're purchasing. And when I say protection, I'm not talking about protecting you. The numbers are, the first two numbers, 100, 300, if that's what you have, are going to be for your liability protection for bodily injury. That's if you hurt someone else. The third number is going to be for liability for property damage if you hurt someone else. That's to protect you in the event of a claim. Now, a lot of times people will buy smaller limits, and this is really not the area that you want to try to do that to try to save money. The reality is that yes, the higher the liability limits that you have, or the higher the protection limits that you have, the more you're going to pay for your insurance premium, generally speaking. But here's a few things that you really need to understand. First is, if you have an auto policy that has just state minimum liability limits or the minimum limits that you can get, you're probably going to be paying more for that than if you had a policy with a company that had higher limits. See, there's these companies that specialize in lower liability limits, and typically they're for people that typically have maybe incidents or claims or different things like that on their auto insurance, and typically those rates are going to be higher because they tend to have more claims. Versus another company that typically writes a client that has higher liability limits is usually going to have lower premiums for those coverages. Another thing that you need to understand is that these limits that you're buying, they're for your protection. They're not just something so that you can meet whatever the requirements are of the state. They're for your protection, so that if something happens to you, those limits will come in and provide legal counsel, pay the medical bills for whomever you may have injured in a claim, and protect your assets. That's the number one purpose of your insurance, is to protect your assets, so that your income that you have, that you make, or the property that you own, such as your home, so those things are protected, and that you have a resource to pull from to pay for the damages to someone else in the event that you do have an accident. The next thing we need to talk about is deductibles. Now, deductibles are the portion of the policy it's a number that you're going to be responsible for if you have a claim. Now, these deductibles are typically applied in the comprehensive, collision, and uninsured motorist property damage portions of your policy. Now, all three of these are different sorts of the policy that are for the protection or the repairs to your car. You have a vehicle that you have on an insurance policy that you have comprehensive and collision coverage on. If you have a claim that falls underneath one of those scenarios, you will have a deductible. That means you will pay that amount, and then the insurance company pays the rest of it. Common numbers there are 500, 1,000, sometimes higher. Now, this is an area where it may be a good idea to have a little bit higher deductible for a couple of reasons. One is, the higher deductible, the more you're going to save on your insurance premium. So the higher deductible, the lower your premium. Another thing is that you don't typically want to file small claims or report smaller claims, such as under $1,000, because a lot of the policies have different credits built into them, such as claims-free discounts or things like that, and you will lose those if you have a claim. So it's better to report the larger claims and just pay out of pocket some of those smaller claims. So in two different ways, it's smarter to have a larger deductible in these areas. The next thing is a term called full coverage. Now that's a word that a lot of people use, and to be quite honest, there's a little bit of bad news here. There's no such thing as full coverage. Full coverage is a term that the consumer typically uses to describe the type of policy that they want. However, in the insurance world, there's no such term as that. There's no coverage called full coverage. There's nowhere in any of the policies that list the term full coverage. The different coverages that you can buy inside of an insurance policy are liability, uninsured motorists, uninsured motorist property damage, medical payments, comprehensive, collision. There's gap coverage that is also loan lease, sometimes they'll call it that. Roadside assistance and rental reimbursement. There's a few other miscellaneous coverages, but those are the primary coverages that you can purchase. None of those are full coverage. Now, many times whenever a client will come in and ask for full coverage, what we understand that they probably mean is liability, comprehensive, and collision. Now, if you remember just from a minute ago, I gave you a long list that was about 7 or 8 different items, and under full coverage, what we think you mean is only 3 of those. So that's not very close to what I would call full coverage. So just understand, whenever you go into an agency and you ask for full coverage insurance, that you're really not probably getting full coverage. So you should, ask them to explain. And if they won't take the time to explain it to you, then maybe you need to find another agent. Also understand that if you talk with us and you ask for full coverage insurance, we're going to ask you a few questions to make sure that we understand what exactly it is that you're looking to take care of. What are your aims with your policy? We're going to get to know you, and any good insurance agent is going to take the time to get to know you so that they can find out what your proper needs are and prescribe to you the correct insurance, and then also make sure that you understand what it is that you're buying. Well, I hope this helps you some to understand a little bit more about auto insurance. We're going to talk about more in depth a lot of the other coverages, so you can go to our website, to reedinsurance.com. It's reedinsla.com. Click on the video education series, and you'll see there where we've got different topics about home and auto insurance there. And then also, always feel free to reach out to us. At Reed Insurance, we have 4 goals. The first thing is that we want to get to know you and make sure that we properly get you covered so that your assets, your ability to make money, or your income is protected. The second thing is that we want to make sure that you understand the coverages that you're buying, that you feel good about your decision. Third is that we want to make sure that you're buying something that's going to fit inside of your budget. And lastly, as an independent insurance agent, we're going to monitor your insurance coverages each and every year to make sure that your coverages are staying in line with your needs, and also that we're always providing you the best deal, because we represent a lot of carriers. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll be glad to help you out in any way that we can. Feel free to email us, text us, or give us a call. The number is 318-336-5202. You can also text it there, and also you can email us at reedinsla.com, or also you can go to our website and learn more about us. Thank you.